So good to see you.
Thank you.
Welcome back to your old high school. So I'm Saida Carter from Act Out Ensemble. And as I discussed with you, we're in the middle of doing a project for the 175th emancipation of enslaved Africans here in St. Croix, the Virgin Islands, which was then the Danish West Indies. So some of the things that we've been up to since you left us for college, and we'll get into that in a moment, is students in the speech classes wrote poems as if they were commemorating and telling the story of that time. Here's one such poem I wanted to share with you today. Uh, why don't you take a look at that? Read that for us so we can go deeper into it and you can sort of give feedback. Since you're now in college and you graduated from here, it's always great to have you come back and find out what's going on with the young people who now stand in your place. So,
Okay, well, this is by Zion Delani, Jet Li Pagan, Jamil Lestrade, Elijah Dover, and Kimani Peets. Goes like this. Enslaved no more, our hearts are free. Emancipation brings us jubilee. Demanding freedom, we took a stand, led by heroes, a valiant band. General Butto, brave and true, Admiral Martin King fought with you. Enslaved persons, their spirits bright, claim their right to justice and light. July 3, 1848, a day of liberation, a time of joy, a new creation. No more chains, no more pain. Freedom forever, our eternal gain. Chains and whips could not suppress the burning desire for freedom, no less. On July 3rd, 1848, they made their demand for the emancipation of every enslaved hand.
so having read that, how do you feel about that, Mr. D'Souza? What did you like that the young people had done, and what are the salient points that stood out for you, sir?
Well, it's very poignant, you know, enslaved persons, their spirits bright really speaks to me because these people in their minds, they wanted to be free, they wanted their lights to shine, they wanted to break out from enslavement. So it's very poignant, and a time of joy, a new creation is a great thing. You know, being let out of shackles is a joyous occasion, to a chance to create something for yourself. So
Before I launch into these questions, uh, at first thought, do you feel that that would be some way in which you could be described?
uh, personally, yes. I feel like just the idea of me going to school and seeking higher education is me seeking out my own liberty to create for myself and create for my people. So that's what being emancipated in the mind means, wanting to create for yourself and not adhere to certain rules of society, or to ask for and beg for, like,
Crumbs, more
yeah,
or less.
yeah,
All
to
right.
take the cold water from the top of the fridge and not the bottom.
Huh,
Yeah.
nice. So I'm going to take you through a little bit of questions about what emancipation means to you. So the first thing I want to ask you, Mr. D'Souza, in what ways have you or do you currently or do you intend to serve what you would consider your people? And how do you define that?
Well, you know, I just try to be a role model for the next generation, be the change that I want to see in the world. But I want to affect the world through my ingenuity and creativity, and I want to create, I want to build, I want to innovate. So I think that's our job as this Gen Z, to innovate and create and to make a better world for ourselves.
Okay, I love that answer. And you're currently what are you doing in life today?
I study civil engineering at the Florida A&M University. It's
Okay,
my
and
fourth year.
you're entering your fourth year.
Yes,
Man, that was fast.
yes, time flies.
I felt like you just left out of here. All right, next up, in your youthful eyes, what is the role of both your age group and maybe 25 and under, let's go with? What is the role of the youth in upholding the concept of self-determination?
Well, I think we have to focus on the future and not look too much on the past, because we are the future. We can't change what happened in the past, and we can't expect things to be given to us. We have to go out there and really take it ourselves. So that's what being determined and being self-determined. You have to believe in yourself, no matter what. So
What before this is not a question from our list, but what are some of the things that I guess for you that are happening in the on the current world stage that feel very alarming and feel like they would fracture and fissure a young man of color's ability to self-determine?
well, I go to school in Florida with
Enough said. Say no more.
fascism is on the rise there. So I mean, it's definitely not easy, but I'm not going to be down on myself in the face of it. I'm going to stand up to it and make a way for myself and for my people. That's all I can do.
Okay.
Yep.
I love that. I'm moving on to think about this concept of you were raised in the Caribbean pretty much.
Mhm.
What places?
Jamaica and St. Croix
So what age did you come to St. Croix from Jamaica?
when I was 14.
14. So you got a good experience in both places.
Right. Yep. I became a man here, you
Mhm.
could say.
But
Came
what
of
did you,
age.
I remember we chatted once about being in Jamaica in elementary school and doing a play or a program on someone the likes of Marcus Garvey.
Yeah, I mean, as a Rastafarian, I've always looked up to Marcus Garvey. My father always instilled in me the idea of emancipating your mind, and what did Marcus Garvey say? Up, you mighty race. So we're a mighty race. We just have to realize that in ourselves. We have to see it in ourselves and get up.
What do you think are the stopping points, the hindrance? I feel we're a mighty race too. It must be how I was raised too. But what is it that many people might not recognize that, and they might think that there's some subversiveness, some subculture, some lack of ability, some lack of skill set, like that to be Black is really not a joy or a privilege or a pleasure, but some kind of a dark curse. Like, what is happening in your peer group? Because I think even when you went to this school, when you went to the St. Croix Educational Complex, you sort of stood out to me as an aware young person. And I want to create more Mr. D'Souza's, right? More young people like you. I'm not trying to gas your head up or whatever, but how do you create young people who have the presence of mind to know and love their African self?
Well, I mean, I understand it can be difficult in the face of white supremacy. We understand that there's racist people, but that doesn't mean we can't do it. When you said how to create more Mr. D'Souza, we just have to read. We have to be willing to read and learn. I think learning is the most important thing. I think in the face of white supremacy, we think we don't have to try. We don't need to try. We could just,
it's already done.
They're not going to let us. Yeah. They're not going to let us, but they are. If we're being real, they are. They're giving us more opportunities. We have to just go out there and seize them and create our own opportunities and show that we do this too.
Okay, I love that. So I'm really into nation building and group economics. I guess I'm sort of a weirdo in that way. I feel like we should, as a community, constantly be coming together to talk about how to make the community better. So because I enjoy theater, I try to do it through theater. I try to do it through my teaching. How do we need to mobilize our community so that they understand the importance of building the community?
I think it starts with education. I think the education system is very individualistic in some ways. So if we want to build a community, we have to make the schools a community. And I feel like there's too much different things going on. We need schools to be teaching like a single thing, that everybody comes together for a single thing, like economic empowerment, like you said. And that all starts with industry and infrastructure and innovation. So it does start with education, and then when we move on from education, I think Black people, we think a lot for ourselves and not for the overarching community. So, I'm only 20 years old. I don't have all the answers, but
You have some
I
though,
just,
and you're in the moment of life where you're sort of developing and deciding that direction. So one of the main things that I'm concerned about that affects many Virgin Islands families is poverty. If you had to suggest a way in which to tackle, I mean, I know you said civil engineering, you didn't say you were studying economics or government but do you have any thoughts about how we can dismantle poverty or make poverty not the most important factor that determines someone's reach and their ability?
well, I think the most overarching important thing that comes out of poverty is hunger. And for me, we see the amount of fruit trees, amount of vegetables, and it's going to waste. So I think, in my eyes, hunger in that way is not real. But we have to educate people and show them that you can grow your own food. You don't need to have all this money to spend at the supermarket. We see how high the prices are at the supermarket because we have to import our foods. If we were growing our own foods, it wouldn't be so expensive. And agriculture is something it keeps going. It's renewable, I should say. We see how hot the sun is, how much wind is blowing. We have to use these elements to, like the electricity. We always complain about WAPA. We can create our own electricity using solar energy, wind energy, hydroelectricity. We're surrounded by water. So
What do you think we should be doing as Virgin Islanders of the United States in order to unify our emancipation efforts? Because it's really nice to celebrate emancipation, but we also have to understand that emancipation is a gradual walk and we're not at the finish line, and it's something that we constantly have to do.
I think we have to collaborate with African people all over the world. It's not just the Caribbean. Our plight is not perpetual at all, and our fight is not ineffectual. We just have to work together. We have to take ideas from other islands or other African people and bring it here, and we have to share our ideas with them as well. Again, I'm 20. I feel like the answer is a lot more nuanced than what I'm saying, but I think we have to start somewhere.
Let me get back to that. I'm 20. Do you think that enough 20-year-olds are having these type of conversations? And if your answer is no, if it's yes, great, point me their way, right? But if your answer is no, how can we engender that as people in my age group several decades away from you?
Well, I think, your generation has to be willing to listen to ideas. And I feel like we might not get it right at first. We might never get it right. Not to sound too negative, but
Pessimistic
yeah,
much?
pessimistic. But I think you do have to give us the opportunity to have power and to take the lead. You see, well, I don't want to make America an example, but we have how old is Joe Biden? 80-something years old. People of that age should not be in power. The younger people are the ones with the ideas.
So not enough passing of the torch.
I guess you could say that, yes,
Yeah.
exactly.
Interesting. Well, just to bring us to a close, I'm so happy that you took, time out of your college vacation to hear a little bit about this Emancipation Project. We created a reel of historical monologues. We've done some interviews with persons in the community, and at least we can begin to start the conversation. So looking right into the camera, I'm going to be sharing this with my students next year, who are going to be 10th, 11th, and 12th graders. What is a word of advice you have for them so that they can find themselves someday entering their 4th year of college in an esteemed program, ready to take on a lot of responsibilities about changing the world? What salient words of advice can you give young people right below you?
Well, first of all, I'd say you can do it. You don't have to adhere to the constraints of society. Conventional thought is antiquated. So think differently, think outside the box. Don't put yourself in a box, first of all. Be outside the box. Be as far outside the box as you want. Just do it, and you can do it. So
That's good advice. That's good advice. Well, this concludes our time together.
Thank you for
It's
having
been
me.
a pleasure chatting with you. I always try to keep tabs on you with your dad, who's my colleague, and I'm grateful
am I.
that I can hand over my world to someone such as yourself.
Thank
So,
you.
thank you.